see you guys in the dark.
First things first, got to rip the band-aid off and admit that from late 2001 to mid-2003, when I was a teenager, I wrote fan fiction and posted it online. My stories weren't that great, but I made friends because I posted them, so I don't regret doing it. Even after I stopped posting stories, I was still active online, and instead of posting fan art and dumb stuff about the roleplays I did with my buddies over on DeviantArt. Cringe. Maybe I sound like a lame fangirl, but whatever, I was having fun. Fast forward to 2008, when I got a PM on DA that was, well, I really wasn't expecting online life to take such a strange turn on that particular random day. But the writer, Ari, began her missive by informing me, a complete stranger, that she was seriously mentally ill. She listed a wide variety of disorders, including schizophrenia, which had tormented her all her life. She then said she was scared to write to me like this, but that she had to do it so that she could move on. Move on from what, you ask? From her hatred of me, of course. Ari wrote that she had hated me for a long time based on the fan fiction I wrote, because my stories had terrified her so much. Okay, now let's be clear. I wrote stories about characters from cartoons and one comic book. One of my characters from that comic was a violent and terrible person, and I wrote him as such, but that's not what was scaring her. No, Ari was scared because she was in love with said violent character. His name was John, and believed they were destined for each other, and that he talked to her in her head. And then she read my fan fiction, and suddenly, John stopped talking to her. And she knew it was because he was talking to me instead. She was obviously certain that I had stolen her love from her. She said that after that, she developed a belief that I was the arbiter of her reality more generally, and that I was capable of reaching into her mind and not only reading, but taking away her precious thoughts. This caused her so much anguish and suffering. However, she went on, deep down, she also knew that this was a delusion caused by her mental illness. Ari closed her PM by begging me to respond to her, to confirm that I was just a normal girl, so she'd get past this trauma I had caused her to be happy again. Now, I have to again rip off a band-aid of inviting judgment here by admitting that sometimes I am a complete dumbass. I am also a soft-hearted person, and the idea that someone could have been harmed by a goofy crap story I've posted years earlier made me kind of sad. So I did a soft-hearted, but ultimately dumbass thing, and responded to her. Yes, I was a normal teenage girl when I posted that stuff, and now I'm a normal early 20s woman with no mind-stealing superpowers. Also, I don't know you, and had no idea you existed until you sent me this, so how could I have singled you out to hurt you with my fanfics? Please don't worry about me. And I thought, what a kind person I am, and surely that will end it. I was wrong. Ari replied to me, using a different, upbeat, and cheerful tone, saying she was so glad I wrote back to her because now she knew she didn't have to fear me, and we could be friends. She loved my fanfics, honestly, and by the way, what was my real name so she could find me on Facebook? Excuse me? No. A dumbass I may be, but I ain't that stupid. I told her I didn't have a Facebook, and was busy with school, so I couldn't be on DeviantArt a whole lot. But I wished her good luck with her mental recovery, and hoped that she would have a good life. I didn't get a response to that, but a few months later, I got a DeviantArt PM from another account that I didn't know, that simply asked, "Hey, how do you get your characters to talk for you?" Now, I hadn't posted any fanfics for years, but I was still participating in fandom and talked online about writing, and I honestly thought this question was about writing, specifically dialogue. I mulled over how to respond and ended up not answering right away. I went back to my PMs a few days later and saw I had another message. This one saying, with a lot of exclamation points and cryptotyping style misspelling, that I had to answer and teach the stranger how to talk to my characters, and that I didn't know how long had suffered because of me. Oh my goodness, I wonder who it was, using another account? And guess what? I was still a damn dumbass. So I answered the first message, but sort of detachedly, ignoring the desperation of the second message, and just kept giving tips on how to learn the character's voice and how to write dialogue for them. Once again, I got a very chipper reply, including a confession that, yeah, it was Ari, and she just loved talking to me, and thought I was so nice and such a good friend to be patient with her and answer her burning questions about how to talk to my, yes, specifically my characters. Because you see, she had realized that she was not just in love with John, but with my John from my stupid fanfiction. And now, she would talk to him anytime, because we were friends. I got the idea that she was not asking to roleplay, and instead thought she would have been able to communicate directly with my once-removed fan-fictional character. I feigned ignorance and said something like, your RP group is kind of private and not accepting new members, but I hope I answered your questions, and please have a good day. Because you see, I did not really want to be friends with someone who seemed to believe I was somehow responsible for her mental illness, despite not knowing her from Adam and having only spoken to her twice, and had already told me once that she hated me and thought I could control her reality. On the kinder side of things, I honestly didn't think continuing the conversation would be good to either of our comforts. On the meaner side, I just really didn't want to interact with this person anymore, and I felt I had already done more than enough to help this stranger. Okay, so she stopped responding to me, and I thought this strange interlude in my life was now over. Again, I was wrong. Now fast forward 7 entire years to early 2015, at which time I had moved to main online presence to Tumblr. I'd left a note on my DeviantArt account in 2011 when I moved, giving my new Tumblr screen name so my fandom buddies could find me easily. At this point, I had no posted fanfiction for over a decade. I was also not talking much at all online about John, except to reblog the occasional post someone else made about the comic he was from, as you do on Tumblr. Suddenly, I received an anonymous ask, and that ask said in no certain terms that I was the cause of asker's suffering because I had callously disregarded others' feelings. It closed with some kind of weird threat. I can't remember exactly what now because I instinctively deleted the ask due to being unnerved. I guess that it was Ari, based on the typing style and the fact that there wouldn't be 2 people in the world who think I make them suffer, right? But it had been 7 years, so I wasn't entirely sure. And then yet another dumbass thing. I made a post that said something along the lines of, to the Anon that just sent me a vaguely threatening ask. Sorry if anything I've posted has upset you. Please let me know if I can tag my post a certain way so you can block whenever content you find distressing. A couple days later, I got another Anon calling me a prattling, ostentatious idiot and saying it doesn't work that way and wrong emotions cannot be blocked. The message just went on. You stole him away from me, and I have been living in turmoil since, and you just don't care. Ah, yes, definitely Ari. There is no question about it. After all, I haven't stolen anyone else's fanfiction boyfriend that I know of. I turned off anonymous asks. I also went back to my old, untouched DeviantArt account, where I found a comment on my front page from yet a third account that said, "If you still talk to him, tell him that I love him, and that I always will. He was the first man I ever loved, and it was your version of him I loved above all. I have been jealous, angry of you, angry of deceit, depressed, and psychotic. I tore myself to shreds over him, and my heart aches and cries. The first cut is the deepest. I love you, John." The date on this message was June 28, 2015, just a few days before the first Anon ask on Tumblr. I did a little internet sleuthing and found her Fur Affinity account, where she had posted screeds in her journal about hating anyone else who wrote or drew anything about John. Okay. I also discovered through this Google search that I was not completely special in triggering Ari's ire, and that she had also gone after another person on Tumblr in much of the same way. This other person had amassed a collection of screenshots of Ari's behavior, and it was really super not good. Anyways, I figured since I'd block Anon asks, maybe she'd just go away. Wrong. Ari's next wave of stuff began in 2016 when someone started reblogging my personal text posts with cryptic comments like, "You have a beautiful soul." The username was nothing like Ari or any of the other accounts and names she's used before, so I just thought someone was being socially awkward. But after a few months of this, I received a message from this account through Tumblr's chat function that let the cat out of the bag. This person said something like, "I'm a British female creature with mental illnesses, and I'm so scared of dying alone and friendless. I used to read your fan fiction, and it always made me feel better. I think you're an amazing woman and would like to get to know you better. Please, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone in the dark." Well, this sure sounded a lot like Ari to me. This was confirmed when I went to the person's Tumblr and saw that they had recently posted something passive-aggressive about that other Tumblr user Ari was known to talk and stalk. And if that wasn't enough, they also had a lot of weird innuendo Latin posts about John and a couple other characters, including Sherlock and a man I didn't recognize, and who they claimed to have legally married. It was at that point that I finally decided to stop being a soft-hearted dumbass. I blocked the account that sent me the chat message right away without responding to any of it. Over the next several months, Ari attempted to contact others on Tumblr who it was obvious I talked to a lot. My girlfriend, our best friend, etc. She sent them chat messages like the one paraphrased above, begging for their friendships and also, just casually asking what I was doing, whether they can get me to talk to her, that sort of thing. I know my girlfriend and best friend blocked her too after they asked who the hell that person was, and I told them the whole story about it. I also discovered on Tumblr you can choose an option to allow chat message from only people you follow. With that account blocked and no one I don't follow able to send me messages, I naively thought again that surely this weird nonsense would end. Of course, I was wrong again. See, the thing about Tumblr, if you're not familiar with the website, is that if you block someone, they can't interact with your posts or follow you. A block causes someone to auto-unfollow you, and they won't see your posts on their dash. They also won't be able to send you asks. However, they can still go to your actual blog and see everything that you post. If they try to interact with any of your posts on your blog, they won't be able to, which will, of course, tip them off that you blocked them. Beginning in 2018, Ari engaged in a whirlwind of activity. She made a new account, sent me an ask, or 15 saying things varying from, "Please talk to me. I'm harmless. You don't know how hard it is to be me. I'm so scared of the darkness. Humans are social animals, and I am dying without you. I guess you like psychos, like John, but can't handle a real psycho like me. I want to kidnap you far away in a happy ending, my darling." So I blocked that account immediately. So she made a new one, and reblogged some posts that I made a while back about John's comic book with a comment like, "My first love, the first cut is the deepest," before sending me multiple asks all saying, "You stole him from me." So I blocked that account immediately. She made another one, made some meme generator sparkly picture of rats and spiders with text like, "I just want to sit next to you and be your friend. I'm not scary," and posted with the @ my username, so this mention would show up on my dash effective immediately. So I blocked that account. She made a new account, posted a quote from my favorite author, and sent me a couple asks saying that this author would disagree with how I was treating her by continuing to block and shun her friendship when she was harmless, and thought I was just an amazing person. So I blocked that account. "Did you forget? You called me a prattling, ostentatious idiot and threatened me, because I sure haven't." This went on for about 10 accounts, one of which had a blog title in huge letters at the top, "Hello, my name is," one which she innuated with photos of her glaring at the camera. And I don't like to judge people on appearance, but this girl had a really creepy glare, and also looks like she was not showered in weeks. She only ever used one of these accounts to actually post or reblog and like things from other people that were seemingly normal users. All the rest only existed to bother me. I started trying to report her to Tumblr after the third or fourth time for making multiple accounts solely to invade my blocks. but if you know anything about Tumblr, you can guess they didn't respond with more than an automated, "Okay, we'll look into this. In the meantime, have you tried blocking this user?" Anyway, throughout 2018, I just had to deal with the fact that anytime I saw the little red flag above my ask box incom, it would probably be something creepy and either threatening or passive-aggressive from Ari that would put me on edge for a few hours and remind me that no matter what I do on Tumblr, she can read everything I post. I haven't gotten anything from her so far in 2019, but I figure as long as she's out there, there's always that chance she'll just come back. Maybe not right away. Maybe not until another 10 years from now. But let me just say, Ari, you freaking weirdo. I'm genuinely sorry about your mental illness and hope you get help for them. But while they may explain some of your behavior, they don't excuse it. I am not, and never will be your friend, because you are not harmless. You made me heavily curtail my social interaction on Tumblr by cutting off a couple of methods of communication that would have been used to make new friends. You made me worried about ever talking there about a comic I enjoy. You made it so anytime I see an ask, my heart rate goes up because it might be more of your disturbing bullshit. You've harassed my loved ones, and also other strangers who probably didn't do anything to deserve it. I don't control your reality, but if I did, you can bet I'd use the power to ensure we'd never meet again. Hey guys, like the content so far? Consider donating to the channel's Patreon account for exclusive pictures, recordings, and even videos not found on the channel. Tiers start at $1 and go up, so if you want exclusive rewards, go and donate and help this channel survive and grow by showing your support and donating. I worked in your run-of-the-mill sub shop in high school. It was on a secluded stretch of road in the in-between part of town. We didn't close till late at night, and I was often there alone as the closer. Not long into my time there, I got a phone call one night that made my blood run cold. It was about 30 minutes away from close, and I was eager to get off. I started to close down half the bread case, wipe up cutting the board, degrease ovens, that kind of thing. I was elbow deep in the dishwasher when I heard the phone ring. I rolled my eyes. Great. I clean everything, and someone's going to call in 8 minutes before we close. I rush up the front and answer with our name in a forced but friendly "How can I help you" tone. There was a pause, so I waited. "Can I help you?" I said, with an even more forced smile. Are you there, alone?" a man's voice said. "No," I stammered immediately. "Who's there with you?" he said, with a not-so-forced smile in his voice. I began to panic. I was new. I only knew one of my coworkers' names for sure. "Ed. Ed's here." "No," the voice said abruptly. "Ed isn't there." I couldn't speak. I couldn't think of anything to say, and the silence was roaring in my ears. "Will you make my sandwich, just for me? I want you to make it, and only you." I hung up. Under no circumstances were we to close early without permission, but I wasn't about to go for some damn subs. I grabbed a knife and rushed to the doors and locked everything up. I called my mom because, of course, I called my mom. I told her what happened and asked her to come sit in the parking lot in case anyone decided to pay me a visit. She did, and I closed without incident. I just wonder, who called me? Could they see me? Was it Ed himself? I don't really know, and I hope that I never find out. So when I was a senior in high school, I was out of the blue contacted one day by this random guy on MySpace. I vaguely recognized him, but didn't really know him. He told me that they knew me from school, and I had tortured him in math a couple of times. This should have been my first red flag that something was off. I hate math, and I've never tutored anyone in it. I told him he was mistaken, but I tried to be nice to him, and we struck up a friendly conversation. Soon the guy, Brian, started talking to me at school. It started off pretty innocently. He was giving me more attention than I wanted from him, but I was flattered and didn't think anything of it at the time. He was a couple of years younger than me, and I figured he had developed a crush on me primarily because we were both kind of odd compared to the other kids in our high school. It was a very small school, and he and I were two of the very small number of alternative kids there. He was pretty emo, while I tended to be a bit more towards punk. Both of us loved My Chemical Romance. I figured he was just into me because there weren't many other girls with similar interests. Before long, he started waiting for me at my locker, every day, between every class. He started following me around before school and during lunch. He started coming to my performances. I tried to be polite, but started to avoid him. I would go to the local grocery store to eat lunch, even though it was more expensive, because underclassmen weren't allowed to leave campus. The situation continued to escalate to the point where he was sexually harassing me every chance I failed to avoid him. If he was waiting for me at my locker, he would say explicit things to me, tell me what he wanted to do to me, and tell me that he was having sex with his girlfriend. He wished that it was me, though. At homecoming, he left his girlfriend waiting awkwardly while he came to tell me that he really wanted to have all of us to have a threesome. Luckily, my girlfriends were there with me and came over as soon as they noticed him talking to me, which made him scurry away from us. As quickly as it started, it was over. One day he stopped showing up at school. I was relieved, but curious. After about a month of him being gone, my friend mentioned him in front of my dad. My dad questioned me about what happened, and I ended up telling him the whole story. He seemed really troubled. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me why Brian had been absent from school recently. Apparently, not long after homecoming, Brian had strapped some fireworks to a cat and set them off. The cat exploded, and Brian had laughed. He got caught and sent to kiddie jail and was committed to a psychiatric facility by his parents after he was released. I don't know what happened to him after that. I'm thinking I dodged the bullet, though, because he turned out to be even crazier than I thought he was.
So these incidents started about 6 years ago and went on for a couple of years. I used to be really into the music scene, going to shows and festivals every chance I got. This often meant meeting random people whose names I could forget 5 seconds later. As a result of being out in Atlanta nightlife so often, I got frequent friend requests on Facebook, and naive younger me blindly accepted them, assuming they were just people I had met at shows that was too drunk or distracted to remember. One day, I got a message for somebody named Eddie. His Facebook profile picture was of somebody at least a decade older than me, with long, scraggly hair. He looked harmless enough, just another show-going hippie, I assumed. His message simply asked if I was the girl that danced a half circle around him at the local show last night, and then twirled dreamily away or something along those lines. I responded that I had no recollection of that, and upon further investigation, saw that he lived in an entirely different state, so it couldn't have been me. He said that I must have had a doppelganger out there somewhere, and I left the conversation at that. Over the next few months, I'd get random notifications that he had messaged me, asking me if I'd be at various shows across the southeast. I mostly ignored the messages, but would very occasionally respond, shortly expressing interest in a band he had mentioned. The messages became more and more frequent, so I just started to leave them. Why I didn't block him is beyond me. I guess I thought he was just harmless and lonely. Fast forward about a year, it's summer of 2013, and two of my best friends and I are caravanning to Wakarusa, a music festival that took place in Ozark, Arkansas. It was about a 13-hour drive from Atlanta, but totally worth it. We went every year. An important note here is that this wasn't some small, intimate festival. It hosted upwards of 40,000 people, and it was often hard to keep track of my friends, let alone find people I knew who came separately. So my friends and I are on our blanket in the middle of a huge crowd, watching widespread panic. It's nighttime, so the only lights are coming from the stage, and random LED toys or glow sticks or whatever. Out of nowhere, someone beelines for our blanket, makes himself at home next to me without permission, and strikes up a conversation. My groups of friends is generally warm and accepting, and it wasn't unusual to make random friends at a big hippie fest like this. So we thought nothing of it at first, probably just someone high on ecstasy and looking for company. It wasn't until he started referencing me in my Facebook personally that the alarm bells started going off. This was Eddie. I had honestly completely forgotten about him and his persistent messages. and in the darkness, there was no way I could have recognized him. He was talking like I was an old friend and tried to follow us around all night. Once I separately alerted the others about who he was, we made every excuse in the book to try to leave, go back to our campsite, call it a night. He was painfully insistent on following us back there and continuing to hang out. Obviously, I didn't want him to know where I slept, so I tried to appease him by saying I was exhausted, but that we would try to meet up tomorrow. He finally left us alone and walked a long roundabout to our campus just in case he had watched to try to follow at a distance. The next day I made an avid point to avoid the area where we ran into Eddie. The festival venue was huge, so I figured there was no way he'd find me again. I was beside a small stage in the back corner of the venue, hooping in the woods with my friends, when I noticed him out of the corner of my eye. He was standing beside a tree alone, watching me with a weird smile. It reminded me of a proud dad watching his young daughter play, but with way creepier and more sinister overtones. Still, he hadn't done or said anything explicitly creepy or threatening, but his presence was so unsettling that I grabbed my friends and we pretended that we had forgotten about a seat that was starting to... So we ran out of the woods. I remember hoping he didn't notice I had seen him. The festival ended the next day, and I was relieved not to see him again. Fast forward about another year. At this point, I barely used Facebook and had all but forgotten about Eddie. My friend that I went to the festival with was visiting from out of town that night, and we were going to get some drinks. He got to my house, and we were catching up, and the subject of the festival came up. We started talking about Eddie and how weird the whole situation was, but at this point, it was less creepy and more of just a strange memory. I told him Eddie used to message me all the time, but that I had stopped opening them years ago. Naturally, my friend wanted to look through the messages, so I obliged. He began to scroll through the messages, and I realized just how dire of a mistake it had been not to block him. He had started asking me by what shows I was going to go to, what part of Atlanta I lived in, not taking the hint that I clearly had no interest in responding at that point. Then as the months went by, he was sending me links to tickets he had bought for me to shows in Atlanta, and then links to tickets he had bought for us to go together. There was one message asking where he could pick me up for a show that was 2 hours away in Athens, and that he couldn't wait to see me again. The messages continued to go on, but at this point I was so creeped out, I immediately blocked him, and closed the computer wide-eyed. What the actual hell? He sounded like he was carrying on an entire relationship with me without my consent. He never acknowledged the fact that I literally hadn't responded to, or even seen a message from him in over a year. Shaken up, we decided to just go get a drink, and stop thinking about this weirdo. We get to Edgewood, and walk to our favorite small bar to get a drink. As soon as we walk into the bar, my heart sinks to the pit of my stomach. To this day, this was the creepiest, most coincidental moment that had ever happened. I see Eddie sitting at the far end of the bar. His face lights up as soon as I walk in, and he motions me over. He says something along the lines of, "I can't believe it's you." Starts firing off questions about me, my life, what I've been up to, etc. At this point, my darkest feelings wash over me. I just feel unsafe and exposed. Why is he here? He doesn't even fucking live in Georgia. I quickly tell him I have to use the restroom, but then I'll be back to the bar for a drink. I grab my friend, equally in shock, and we speed past around the corner to the bathrooms and then past them. I will forever be grateful that the door to the patio area was just past the bathrooms, so we got a head start. We went outside, hopped the fence, and started running to my car. I glanced behind us, and Eddie somehow figured out in those 15 seconds that we left, and is walking rapidly across the crosswalk in our direction. Eyes on me. Fucking booked to my car, and got the hell out of Edgewood as quickly as we can, shaken. I drive us around for about an hour before eventually going home to make sure we weren't being followed. As inconclusive as the whole thing was, that was the last time I ever saw Eddie, and I often wonder if this was just a string of coincidences, or if it was more sinister. After all, he didn't even live in Georgia. Why was he at one of my favorite bars alone? The night I happened to go through all his old messages. Had he somehow gotten a hold of my location via Facebook? I made sure all my location services were off when I checked my phone. So to this day I have no idea how he ended up there, or what his intentions were. But regardless, Eddie, let's not meet again.
So this all happened throughout my high school experience. I'm currently a junior at my school, and this all started the second semester of my freshman year. The first incidents were close to the end of the freshman year. There were a few my sophomore year, and there's only been one so far my junior year, and it's all completely true. I tried looking for the police records that go with it, but I couldn't find anything because of how long it was. The guy in question, I'll call him Alex, is Asian with really short hair and something like 5'4". He's in the same grade as my oldest sister. He's also an avid user of cigarettes, alcohol, and the likes. He even bragged to me that he got his license taken away because he went 60 miles an hour above the speed limit on a highway. A damn highway with the limit of 65 miles per hour. That meant he went at 125. So basically, an ill-behaved boy was chasing a really good girl. I'll give you the entire story now, and I hope it makes everyone who reads this a little more careful when making new friends. The second semester of my freshman year, I took an art class in hopes to get an elective credit. I was sitting with some friends talking about the projects we were making, and Alex walks through. I'd never noticed him in class before, which was really strange. I should also put this on a timeline for you, to make this a little easier to follow. It was close to prom season, so early March, and luckily close to the end of the year. He started talking about whatever, and we really hit it off. After a week, I started seeing him popping up around me, in the hallways, outside my classes, and he'd talk to me during passing time. I didn't think much of it, being the stupid, naive child I was. I should also mention that he rode my bus in the afternoon. Alex and I would sit by each other on the bus and talk, which just encouraged further interaction with him. One day, my older sister, who is 2 grades above me, didn't have theater practice after school, so she took the bus home. And when she got on, she saw me next to Alex. Her face had turned white, and she sat down near the front of the bus. I thought it was really strange, so I planned on asking her about it when I got off the bus, but I forgot to. As prom got even closer, Alex kept talking about it with me. My friends and I all assumed he was going to ask me, because not only did he follow me around, but he wouldn't shut up about it, and he was clearly showing signs of interest in me. Unfortunately for him, however, I was in a relationship with someone at the time, and it was a girl. I had absolutely no interest in dating him. If he did ask me, though, I would need to say we'd need to go as friends. Thankfully, Alex told me instead that he'd like me to tell Tanya that if she didn't have a date, that he'd love to bring her. Almost immediately remembering the incident on the bus, I just said, "She's got a date already, but thanks," wanting to protect her. Over the next few days, Alex actually started talking about sexual statics. Things like average length of someone's manhood, or the average age someone loses their virginity. I got super uncomfortable about this, and told some of the boys in my class that if it got brought up again, I'd go sit with them, and they gladly offered to protect me. This was my first set of red flags. Another instance that set off red flags about Alex was when I got home, and the doorbell rang. I looked out the window and saw Alex there. This wasn't the strangest part, because I got off the bus before Alex did, so he saw where I had lived. I yelled to my mom that someone was here to see me, and I went out on the front porch to go talk to him. He was with his friends, and yelled to them that he was going to catch up with them later, and he wanted to talk to me first. He told me about some mundane stuff, and I was getting bored. So bored, in fact, that I just bluntly decided to ask him if he liked me. I was tired of him always beating around the bush, and I just wanted a stupid answer. Alex kind of froze and danced around the subject, confirming my suspicions. The way he avoided telling me that he liked me was really strange, bragging to me about his drugs and illegal escapades. My dad was also just coming home from work at the time, too, so I had an excuse to leave the really uncomfortable situation. When my dad came in the house, he told me about how nice Alex seemed, and I looked over to Tanya, and she looked upset about it, but neither of us said anything. Later on, not on the same day though, I posted a picture on my Instagram, and he commented on it. I still don't know how he got my Instagram to this day. He commented his phone number, telling me to text him, and that my dad was really chill. Along with the demand for me to text him, he continued to almost harass me on the direction of messaging on Instagram, asking to hang out. This was another red flag that set things off for me, making me weary of him, and I decided that I needed to be very careful with him from now on. In early May, he continued to follow me from class to class, but from a further distance. This was absolutely mortifying, but my girlfriend at the time thought it was hilarious. She said that it was funny seeing a strange boy chase a gay that had no chance with him. I laughed with her on the outside, but internally, I was really scared. It was at this time frame that he actually showed up in my window. I should mention that my parents weren't home at this time either. They were out grocery shopping while all my sisters were home alone with me. I was done with all my homework, and I was practicing my makeup skills so I can do the makeup of a few girls that were going to prom. I had my earbuds in and I was listening to my music when I heard some sort of tapping noise. I took them out, listened intently for a moment, then popped them back in. I heard the tapping noise once again and took my earbuds out again, once again listening. This happened a few times until I just kept my earbuds out permanently. I finally heard it again and found it coming from my window. I quickly wiped off my makeup and grabbed a pocket knife that I kept under my pillow. I opened my curtains and saw Alex just standing there. He was strangely dressed in a three-piece tuxedo with a single white rose. He said something and I couldn't hear him through the glass. I yelled through the glass I was going to come outside and talk to him. As I walked up the stairs to go outside, Tanya came up to me, terrified. She told me not to go outside, and I asked why. She told me that Alex was outside and that he was dangerous. She revealed to me that he stalked her freshman year and followed her around the way he did me. We both panicked together, and I heard the garage door open, signaling that our parents were home. We ran to the foyer, telling our dad that Alex was outside and that he needed to do something about it. He walked over to the side of the house where my window was and talked to him. I never knew what he said, but it kept Alex away for a while, which was really nice. But things suddenly got a lot worse from there. Alex started talking to me again, but this time it was about sex and drugs, even worse than before, telling me about all the drugs he had with him and about all the girls he screwed, going into extreme detail. I went to go sit with the other boys in the art class, but it did nothing. He still talked about it, even making one of the hockey players uncomfortable. They did their best to shield me, but it only went so far. This was my final red flag. Before I deleted his number and blocked him on Instagram, I was too uncomfortable to put myself through any more social interactions with him. The worst it had gotten, though, was 2 days before the last day of school. I was getting ready for bed, around 10 p.m. when I heard a knock at my window. I once again grabbed my knife and looked out my window, assuming the worst, but praying for it to be just the bushes outside my window. I saw the very dark outline of a figure, and my heart had dropped. I knew it was Alex, so I closed my curtains and ran upstairs to my parents' bedroom, almost in tears about Alex being at my window. My dad and I both went back down to my window, and no one was there. My dad thought Alex could still be there, just hiding in the bushes outside my window. My dad decided to try to scare him off, and went to turn on the back porch lights and call for my dogs. I didn't get any more knocks at my window for maybe 2 minutes. I heard another knock and told my dad. He just marched straight outside at this point and found him sitting by my window with his hood up. I don't know what happened, but the police were called, and they had to escort him back to his house. It was terrifying, but I was pissed at that point. Why wouldn't he just leave me alone? It doesn't stop there, however. The next day during math class, I sat in a spot that faces the window. With my back to the door, halfway through the hour, one girl in the class shouts out my name, telling me to look behind me. I turn around, as does the rest of the class, and there was Alex, standing intently above me, silent. I got up, ready to punch him in the face, but he ran out the door. I just stood in the doorway of the room and broke into tears. 3 other people comforted me, and my girlfriend told the teacher what was going on. The scariest part, however, was that I never told him my schedule. Later that day, my mom, Tanya, and I went to the police at our school. When the officer said we could do a no-contact agreement, we ruled it out because it would take too long to put into place. With only a few days left in school, later when the officer talked to Alex, asking him what he did, he said it was because neither me nor my sister told him no. It was near the end of the year, and nothing happened with him over the summer. My sophomore year, though, I had another class with him. I immediately told the teacher about everything so that she knew, and everyone in class protected me from him. I had no further incidents from him. The teacher actually cared about me, and is now one of my close friends. My sophomore year was clear of any incidences, and I had pretty much forgotten the existence until recently. I woke up and checked my phone after turning off the alarm. I saw that I had gotten a random Facebook message from someone I didn't know. My Facebook is about as private as it gets, so I didn't know that it was possible to receive messages from people that I wasn't friends with on Facebook. My sophomore year, Alex was supposed to graduate, but he didn't. His name wasn't even said at the ceremony, and wasn't even listed in the program. Tanya and I both laughed about it, but we knew that it meant that he was going to be in our city longer. I looked at it anyways, and it was very sexual messages. It read, "I need to cream you and stretch it out real good, make you squirt and cream all over it." It was annoying, and I get messages like that all the time from bots on Instagram, so I would have ignored it, but because it was on Facebook Messenger, it was really strange. I clicked on the person's name, and their profile came up. I scrolled through their pictures, and I saw a picture that made my heart sink. A picture of Alex. It was Alex's profile, and he had messaged me, and changed the profile's name and location. I only showed it to a few people, but not to my parents yet. I showed it to my current boyfriend, who showed it to his mom, and she told me to tell my parents. The reason we showed it to a teacher was because he'd been around the school grounds within the last few weeks, and she may be able to do something about it. Nothing has happened with Alex since, but if something else happens, there is a chance he won't make it out of the situation alive, because I'm fed up with him, and he's caused me and my family enough grief. Please be careful who you choose to make friends with, and what sort of information you give out. Don't put yourself through what I've been through. Let's not meet again, you creepy fucker.
Hey there, Stalkers of the Night. I wanted to thank you for 900 subs and beyond. Don't forget, 1,200 subs and I have a massive face reveal ready for all of you. Also, I made a Patreon for those who are interested in supporting this channel. The link is in the video's description.
I will see you guys in the dark.